Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's recording.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon for the ones who are on the other side of the world, let's say. For us, it's good evening. Well, what can I say about Catie? You know, I met her last year when a friend of mine and I were traveling in Poland, and she's also a traveler like I am. So that's how we met on a tour. I know she's a teacher and I know she loves to travel the way I do. So that's why we kept in touch. But it's been really difficult to get a hold of her. So I'm very happy that she's here with us tonight. So Catie, please just introduce yourself and then we can start with some questions.
So I've lived in Minnesota my whole life, and my parents first took us out of the country when I was 16 years old, and we did 5 weeks in Europe. And we went everywhere, never staying really in the same place once. Around 5 o'clock, we would look for free rooms because that was before you had phones. So we would be looking around and say, oh, that place looks nice. So I think my love of travel came from there. Since then, it's been awesome. Being a teacher, you have breaks. So I've been able to travel quite a bit. My last continent is Antarctica, and
Oh, wow.
I need to save up for that one a bit more. So
Sounds great.
yeah.
Do you have like direct flights from Florida to Antarctica then? Or how would you do it? Like how
You have to take a cruise ship. So I think you go exactly. So
Richard knows how to do it. You've been there on the ship? Richard, did you go there? Oh, he did. He worked on a ship like me. Okay, tell her how she should do it.
His sound is off. Oh,
Yeah, I was trying to find my sound. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of long flights.
Okay.
long
How-
flights.
So yeah, so
You're
how?
mute, Fisher, you're mute.
Oh, he's struggling with his phone, I guess. Let's see.
you were on for a few seconds, but now you're off again. Your video is back though.
Oh, there we go. Look at that.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
that's
love
okay.
Well, I said it's numerous flights, especially if you fly from South Africa. It's quite a few flights before you got to join the ship, and the only way to get there is by ship. So you're absolutely correct. Is by ship. There's a few ships that charter that go to the Antarctica, but it's an absolutely amazing experience. I think it's the most beautiful place in the world if you can handle the cold.
I'm from Minnesota. I can handle the cold.
There we go.
But it's like 12 months cold there? Is it really? It's
Oh,
always
no,
cold.
not in Minnesota. No.
No, I mean in Antarctica, I mean. It's always
It's cold.
Yeah.
Oh. So how long were you there, Richard?
We docked for 2 nights in Antarctica, and then we did all the way through, looking at every iceberg we could possibly did. So it was close to about a 4-day journey.
So you know that already, Catie. If you want to go, you have
Yeah.
to be at least 2 weeks.
Well, I was looking at taking a cruise that would start in New York and go all the way down South America and go to Africa. There's the Antarctica and then go all the way up and end in like California somewhere, but it's like 90 days. So I don't know that I could do that solo, but I mean, I enjoy solo travel, but maybe not that much yet. But if anybody wants to come with me, yay!
From
We don't
Europe.
have that much
Oh, yeah.
time off like you. So I think it was a pretty good introduction. Does anyone have questions already? So let's work with raising our hands, and then it's easier for us to follow up. Okay, Bruce, go ahead.
I was just wondering, what do you teach?
So I've always taught elementary, so 9 and 10-year-olds, or 9, 10, 11-year-olds, so upper elementary. I like when you can tell them to like read a book or do something and they can do it on their own, that independent piece. But 2 years ago, I took 1 year off. I decided that teaching has changed so much and I needed a break. So I took 1 year off. And then this last year, I decided that I should take another year off. So I'm currently, I call it in recovery from teaching, because it was a lot. But I also had a very unsupportive administration. So that made it very difficult. I don't know what I will do next when I choose to grow up again, but I'll do something. I don't know that it'll be an education, but maybe like a nonprofit or something. I want to help people. I enjoy working with people.
I need your help. English Brazil needs your help.
I already told her that. She knows.
I like that. I like that.
So that's a conversation for another time. Let's go further with Aura. We're gonna come back to that. Okay, Aura, question?
I just wanted to ask, because I do know that traveling outside of the USA for for like American people, it can be quite difficult. That's what I've heard. And I just want to like know, how were you able to travel everywhere? Is it difficult to get like visas? Is it?
I guess it depends. So for Europe, you can stay 30 days in 6 months. So because that's what we like, it's kind of what we do for them and what they do for us. But there's no visas that I needed to get for any European. Africa, we had help getting visas for certain countries before our trip. And then Asia, the only visa that I had an issue with was China. But that one, it was just so far ahead of time that you had to turn in, and you had to send your passport to get the visa. So that one was, I don't know, it makes me a little nervous to give away my passport. In South America, I think you can all do visas on arrival. And most of the places now have visas on arrival. So it's not too bad. It's just giving them money.
And a
Can I
blood
ask-
sample.
Blood sample.
Yeah, blood sample for DNA. In case you're a criminal, that'll catch you.
Yeah, Bruce, I think you watch too much of that CNI stuff going on.
Yeah,
Of
yeah,
no,
I watch-
CIS, sorry, CIS I meant.
They have two good
Um,
shows in Brazil. One is called Cidade Alerta, the other one's Brazil Urgente.
Okay. Can I ask
Right,
Katie a
Sandra?
question?
Go for it.
Hi, you were talking about how many days did you say you have for Europe?
90.
So I wonder, when you say Europe, do you mean the whole of Europe or do you mean within the EU?
Within the EU, but yeah, so within the EU. So this last trip, I went for just under 3 months, but I was in Albania, and that's not part of the,
No.
is it the Shen? I always get it, the Shen,
We know what you mean.
Oh,
but it's a
Schengen,
very
Schengen.
difficult
Yeah,
word.
you mean Schengen.
Thank you. In the Schengen area. So, and the only time that I had trouble with it was not trouble, I guess, was the year before I was traveling, because I had gone in the fall, and then I had to look at my time because I had a chunk in between, but it's in 6 months. So you have to wait. So I actually had to sit down, and I actually had to leave. I went to Jordan because I was close. And I left Europe, went to Jordan to make sure I had a little bit of a cushion, because I don't know, makes me nervous and I don't want to get kicked out. I don't know how particular they are.
After those 90 days, how long do you have to be gone from Europe?
90 days.
Ah, so it's 90 days in, 90 days out.
Right. So in 6 months, you can only be there for 90 days. So you could go like every other month, but I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking, but of course it's not going to work like that. That's why I asked, now that Britain is no longer part of the EU, I was wondering how that worked. I thought if you went to Europe and then your 3 months or your 90 days are over, you just go a week to England, which is lovely as well, and then you come back. But no, it doesn't. They covered that. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
How naive am I?
In Thailand, it's like that. You can go to Thailand for but it used to be, I don't think maybe 10 years ago, 8 years ago I was there, but you could spend 30 days, leave and go to Laos or Cambodia, and then come back and your 30 days started over again.
Yeah.
So
I think I went to Cuba once, and I stayed visas for a month, and you buy it on arrival. And I wanted to stay longer, so I needed to get my visa while I was there, which is not recommendable. It worked in the end, but it took me like an entire day of going from one office to the other with a taxi from one end of town in Havana to the other. It was but finally I got it, but that was a nightmare.
that's good.
Yeah, visas can be a lot of. China is difficult. Yeah. Inspiring view we have of Bruce there.
Richard.
Yeah, I was just saying the same with Bruce is getting ahead of himself there. All we can see is his head.
Sorry,
you
I
had
have a lot of
question,
noise here.
Richard?
Yes, I did, Katie. Yeah, Richard, once again. I'd love to know a bit more about Minnesota.
So Minnesota, we are the north middle of the United States. So we touch Canada. We have like kind of like a little chimney thing that goes up into it. We're called the land of 10,000 lakes. So lots of lakefront property. Most people have cabins. So in the summertime, you leave on Friday and you go to your cabin, and then you drive back on Sunday with everybody else and spend 4 or 5 hours in the car. Not great. But beautiful water. So where I live on the border of Minnesota and Wisconsin. So we have a boat, and so it's the St. Croix River, and it goes into the Mississippi, which goes all the way to the Gulf. But we have just lots of water. We're also known for our mosquitoes because they're
lovely.
we say that they're huge, but really they're teeny tiny, but there's just many of them. We used to have the world's largest mall called the Mall of America, but now there has to be like multiple others that are bigger. What else?
So you're talking about 50 years ago, 40 years ago, when it was the biggest?
20. I think 20. It was 20. So it was when no, it would have been like 30 years ago because I was in elementary school. So, but it was like really big. People would fly in from different states because we don't have tax on our clothing. So people would fly in at 7 a.m., go shopping all day, and then fly home that night. But it was like a tourist destination. Now we still have tax-free clothing, so come shop. But it's not as much of a destination. Well, maybe still a destination, I guess. Pretty close.
I see you have several Indian reservations in your state.
Yes.
Is that something you visit?
To be perfectly honest, not really, other than to go to a casino because those are legal there.
Oh,
but
really? Okay.
I don't really gamble other than, you go with your $20 and, friends will go out and it's a fun night out, but not really. There's some reservations that are very wealthy, and the money just exudes. Like you go onto the reservation and the houses are mansions, and it's an 18-year-old living there because they get money back. But it's also an issue because they're 18 and they have all this money. So there's not everybody, but there's no need for further education or to get a job or to, like do more. And that's not everybody. That not a blanket statement, but that is something that has been one of the issues on reservation living, like the alcohol and the drugs, because they don't need to have jobs and they just have automatic money.
Why do they have automatic money? Maybe a naive question, but I don't know how it works.
From the casinos. So depending on the amount of like the percentage of Native American blood that they have, like they get money from the casinos, and the casinos make a lot of money. So then they get money doled out to them, just by birthright. But it's one way that the United States that will never make up for, but the treatment of them, basically stealing their land, I mean, mass murders. It's one way to give them back. I don't know. Not an expert. Yeah.
No, but it's very
Interesting.
clear. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It was a question from a really, really long time ago. I'm really sorry. But I just wanted to like ask, what was the country that you traveled to that was the most culturally different from like the US?
I think I would say China.
China, was waiting for it.
Yeah. So so both of my trips that I took in Asia, I did on tours because I wasn't as comfortable with them. So China, and I did 40 days in China. So I started in Hong Kong and then did basically a huge loop all around. So we were in the country, we were in huge cities, like Hong Kong is insane. I mean, like you can't move without like being in super tall buildings. Yeah, that's a really good question. Thanks. I hadn't thought about that one before. But yeah, no, I would say China, and the food is different, but also like, yeah, I couldn't have white rice for a really, really long time after that trip. But I wanted cheese and mashed potatoes. That was like, I was like, I haven't had cheese in a month because dairy is not really part of their diet.
Wow.
But cheese and bread. Like good bread. So we found a bakery at one point that had sandwiches, and I bought 3 sandwiches. And I was like, this is one of the greatest things ever. So simple, but it's something that you miss.
Yeah, I've been to China a lot. Oh, sorry.
How long were you there for in China?
40 days, because I did 5 days in Hong Kong on my own, and then joined the tour. And because we met in Hong Kong and then did like 35 around and then back to Hong Kong for, I think I had 1 or 2 nights or something like that, because it's literally 12 hours difference. So I didn't want to get there and then be tired for the first, few days of the trip. So I got there early and walked around on my own, and yeah, that was good. It was a good introduction.
Okay. But I mean, when you were in the tour, you were with Americans and other people, or?
It wasn't, I think there were only 1 or 2 other Americans. The rest were a lot of Australians and Europeans. And it was through G Adventures. So it was like 30 somethings and under. So there was an age limit. So I didn't have like a 90-year-old person trying to do this trip with me, which was a benefit. And it was called China on a Shoestring. And that shoestring was very threadbare at times. Like some of the cultural pieces of it, we took the really fast trains, and they had bunk beds that were 3 high. So if you were in the top bunk or middle bunk, you couldn't sit up. Like you had to kind of like.
Especially for you're tall.
Yeah. So it was, that was interesting. And then having people come up to you and want to take pictures with you. I mean, I don't have super blonde hair, but we had a couple of people that were like tall with blonde hair, and people would just come up and take like kind of not grab them, but like, not ask, and just take pictures with them. And they're like, no more. Like, it's just a different piece of it. So makes you feel a little like a celebrity when they do that, but.
But Catie, being there in a tour like that, you don't have the chance to interact with Chinese people, right?
No, yes, like the places that we were, like we went to Shaolin, which is like where Kung Fu, and we like stayed in, and like the places that we're staying in are like hostels and homestays. It wasn't hotels. Like there were some places, like when we were in Shanghai, it was like big hotels. Yeah, you're not going to interact with people, but like there were always like day trips, or you could do like a cooking class, or yeah. So there was still opportunities to do that. And like when we were in one cafe, a group of students came in and they sat down and they were like, we want to practice our English. So it was kind of fun to talk to them, and they like sought us out and they were like, how old are you? You know, like those very like simple, common, good questions. So that was pretty cool. So there was interaction, but I mean, not a lot. I wouldn't say there's a huge amount. And again, in a lot of places, when you go places, you're not going to interact with most locals too often, other than, you know, in the touristy spots and having dinner, and yeah, so it's not too bad.
Okay, Aura has another question. Go ahead, girl.
Sorry, I'm just full of these today.
I love it.
I just wanted to know, because like speaking about like traveling, I just want to speak about languages. Like I know that they tend to make Spanish like the second language or something like that in America, but how many people actually speak different languages in America?
Ooh, so I would say, so growing up there, we did have a language option, and our language options were German, French, and Spanish. I, of course, chose German because there was a cute boy in it.
Excellent reason.
You know what? And how much can I speak? None. Zero, zip, zilch. But Spanish in California, Arizona, Texas, those states on the very south border, especially meeting with Mexico, you basically, in a lot of, and like education, you have to be bilingual because you have so many students who are coming over and need that bilingual piece. In Minnesota, I mean, I have friends that speak different languages, but it's not, it's more of a rarity, even though the option was there. But unless it's for your job or you have reason to practice it a lot. But in Minnesota, we have a very large Somali population. So we, like in Minneapolis, we have a very large Somali population. So that's, I think, the second most spoken language in Minnesota, which is interesting because you don't think of that as a very popular language, but there's been a lot of immigrants coming from Somalia.
Somalia, okay.
Okay.
Provavelmente.
Bruce, come back because I want to take the picture of the group, but not the
Oh,
store.
I think he's talking to.
Ele fez uma folga bem no cavalete.
Yeah.
Deu uma folga no cavalete,
Okay.
uma pancada, deu uma folga no cavalete da
Okay, we can wait for the
Ficou
picture.
pouco de folga lá.
Oh, come on.
So any place that I go traveling, I speak English, and I am so fortunate that everybody else speaks English for the most part. I always tell my friends, I've never spent the night on a park bench, not by choice, or gone hungry, because I mean, you always find something to eat and you can mime, you know, like, and most people have a very basic, you know, most of the words are very similar in many respects. So
Except in China.
fortunate, yeah, that's a whole different piece, that's for sure. Yeah, but yeah, that I would always ask my students a morning message question, and I would ask them what their superpower would be. And it's like, oh, I want to fly, or I want to do this. And I'm like, nope, if I could pick any superpower, it would be to understand and speak all languages, because I think that is so cool. But I have tried Spanish so many times, like in college, and I was so bad at it that my teacher, when I would answer something correctly, the whole class would clap, like it was not good.
Okay, Bruce is back. Let me take the picture. Just a minute. Bruce, hello, man. Oh, I think that's his.
Oh, he's
He
just
worked
leaving.
about the tires of his car.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
You
Richard, go ahead. You have another
doesn't look
question?
happy.
Okay, let's go.
Richard, can you?
Yeah, yeah, I was waiting. I thought we all waiting for that famous photo. Catie, I'm actually quite fascinated because I still want to touch on your teaching, especially the age groups you were teaching. Do you have any kids of your own to start off with?
I do
No,
not have
and
kids.
that's what makes it even more fascinating for me because at my tender young age of 49, I've got a 10-year-old. So,
Good for you.
yeah, we never learn from anyway. Yeah, what did you teach? What was the syllabus that you taught, or was it a general syllabus at the school?
So in the United States, in in elementary where I was, we don't specialize. So I taught everything: reading, math, social studies, science, everything. And part of the hardest parts about it is my class size. I had 32 students from 7:50 in the morning. No, wait, I apologize. Think back to from 7:40 in the morning until 2:25 in the afternoon. Now, and there were breaks in there where they would go to gym or music or a specialist and lunch and recess, but otherwise it was all on me. So it was overwhelming. And because of new legislation and, standards, we were changing curriculums every couple years. Like we would have a new math curriculum, and then a year later, we would have a new reading curriculum. Well, it's hard to get good at something when you're shaky on the math, and then now you have reading and have to learn that, but shaky here. So everything just was so much. And then they just passed a new law called Reading First. And so every single person in the school, janitorial staff, lunch staff, front staff, everybody who works in a school has to take this Reading First training, because they're teachers as well, which I like. I like that. I think that every person working in a school should have a buy-in and help these kids out, because you have kids that can connect with different people in the school. It's not always the first, their teacher or, so I like that. But I have a lot of friends that are going back this year, and they're like, we have a week worth of training to do before school starts, which starts our year well in advance. So summer is shorter this year for them. Yeah. And I would say we have I think our curriculum and standards are behind a lot of countries, but we are also force feeding a lot of kids. I mean, we have kids in kindergarten that are so stressed because of all the expectations versus we're in school, let's play, let's do this. They're so stressed that I've had teachers tell me that these kids are on medication already because they can't, like the stress and the amount of anxiety that they have about, and you read books and it's like the art of play or the importance of play, especially at that young age, just get them to interact with one another versus, okay, you need to know these words and oh my gosh, you're behind. And that's like public schools in many ways, not everywhere. And Minnesota does have a very good reputation for education. But it's a lot. It's a lot.
Wow. Yes, my question is just a follow-up from what you just told us. I have 2 children, they are teenagers now, but it's still like the question is, you worked for 16 years with children. So you've noticed for sure differences from when you started. Of course, you didn't have that much experience and then you started getting experience. But I mean, nowadays, like 2024, there are so many kids that are getting diagnoses already. They're taking pills and all these things. I mean, how difficult was it for you, and in general for teachers, to realize that this child has special needs, or there's something not working, or it's not okay? Because I think it's very difficult to be able to tell, okay, maybe a little bit in behavior, but if a child is really shy, or like, how do you do that if you have 34 children? How can you do that?
So because I was upper elementary, a lot of that happens before school even starts. Kindergarten, because there's checks kind of before kindergarten, first grade and second grade. But oftentimes you have some parents who are like, I know that there is something different about my child. Not saying that that's bad. There are some parents who are like, my child is perfectly normal. They never do this behavior at home. And you're like, I'm not telling you because I want to. I'm telling you because I need to help your child and advocate for them. You know, and you can't say that this behavior isn't happening at home. So there's a lot of denial. And if a parent is like, nope, we're not going to do it, you can't force them, you know, and obviously it's their choice, but it is so hard because you've seen so many kids and you know what the quote unquote normal range is. Like, and once you get to know a kid, you're like, yeah, that kid is quiet. Oh, this kid just has a lot of energy, but you know, when he's really interested in something, he can focus. Versus I had a student who I could tell if he had taken his medication from looking at him when he turned the corner to walk in my classroom. I'm like, wow. Okay, hey buddy, do we need to call mom? Oh, I'm out of my pill. You know, I'm out of my pills. And he just was like crawling out of his skin. And his parents were like, well, that's our child. And I'm like, but there's such a difference. And I'm not a huge proponent, like give everybody drugs. But I think that there are some kids, it's kind of like, I compare it to needing glasses or needing braces. Like you're helping your child be successful. And a lot of times, like, what I disliked one of the times is I had parents who would put their kids on medication, but not tell me and see if I noticed a change, or take them off medication and not tell me, which is even harder because sending an email or calling a parent and saying, hi, I noticed this great positive change, or ooh, this week was terrible. Did something happen? And they're like, oh yeah, we ran out of medication, or we took them off just to see what it was like. And I'm like, this is a challenge I don't need as a teacher, you know, like I have enough daily challenges. But there's so many facets to it. And nobody wants to hear that their child is going to have issues, or that there's something not quite, you know, normal. But nobody wants to hear that. And it's so hard to tell them that. But I will say one of the biggest changes in the early years to when I left is when I first started, if I were to call or email a parent, the parent was on my side. The parent is going, oh, I will talk to my child. I will, you know, like this is unacceptable behavior. I would say the last 6 years of my teaching, if I had to, you know, like, hey, there's an incident that happened at school, I learned I would type up an email to the parent. I would bring the child over, have them read it. And I would put that in the email saying, this is what happened. Your child read this and is saying that this is what happened. Because if I didn't do that, the child would go home and be like, no, I didn't do it. She's lying to you. And the parents would be, oh, she hates our child and she's so mean and she's picking on our child. So as opposed to being like, oh, we support you, it's, you don't like our child comes home crying because you're so mean to them. And you're like, okay, it's my fault. So big changes.
Big changes. And do you think like there's lots to do with perfection, like being pretty, being intelligent, being perfect, and also with the social media, that it's change the last 10 years, let's say?
I think it comes from parents wanting to be friends, not parents.
Parents.
And they don't want to do, like, I've had parents call me and say, can you please tell my child that they have to do this tomorrow because they don't listen to me. They'll listen to you. Okay. I like, okay. Hey, Timmy, you have to do 20 minutes of reading each night. Okay.
Timmy can
Big
be
check.
very thankful he didn't grow up in South Africa because that does not happen. Ask Laura.
I can't imagine that it would.
But Catie, I think that there is a kind of issue that's happening with some schools here in Brazil, because teachers or the schools seems that sometimes the parents think that the responsibility for raising or educating their children are from the schools. And this is not, okay? Do you have this same kind of problem in your place, in your school?
Oh, absolutely. I think so, there's a few things that when I talk about why I left, another piece of that is, I will have parents who are going, my child came home and they're swearing, or they, or they get in trouble because they've said bad words at school. And it's my fault. And I'm like, yep. I go in and every day I greet my children by swearing at them. No, and I go, other kids are watching those things. So you have, and that's like the cultural piece. You have kids that are the youngest of 3 kids. Well, when they're watching a show as a family, that show is going to be a bit more mature than the kid that's the oldest, having a 3-year-old brother and a 5-year-old sibling, so they're watching different shows. Then they come to school and they have this common area and they're talking. So the language is changing, what they see is changing, and they love to push the boundaries. Oh, I watched this show. And I'm like, I don't watch that show. That's scary. And they're like, oh, it's a family show. We all watch it. And I'm like, what are you doing? So there's definitely, but then you also have parents that are so overly involved that you're going, your kid is going to be great. It might not happen right now. They're going to get there. It's going to happen. It's okay. But just relax. It's going to be okay. Oh, but I'm so worried that they're behind and they won't get it. I'm like, your child will read. They will read. But the more you push at times, the more they're just going to feel like failures. So, and that was really hard for me because like we were supposed to meet with our low readers every single day. And I'm like, you don't need to work in the school, or like, we can't really level the kids because that hurts their feelings. So but I guarantee the kids could walk in the classroom and be like, smart. No, not so smart. Oh yeah, they need extra help. They know that, especially at that age. But as teachers, we can't acknowledge that or be like, this group can do math, multiplying double digits in their head. You are counting on your fingers to add because during COVID, you decided not to go to school, but we can't hold you back. Like, it's a lot. There's also positives. Sorry, I'm very negative.
Because it seems like you have 3 jobs at once. You're a teacher, you're a parent to the children, and you're also a coach to the parents. Of course, it's overwhelming.
It is a lot. And it took a long time, especially early in my career, where parents would look at me and be like, what do you know? You are too young. You don't have children. And even now, like before, parents would be like, you don't understand. I'm like, you're right. I don't understand. I don't have children of my own. But I also recognize, like, I've been around kids for my whole career, like, and a variety of kids, so I feel like I am an expert in some areas.
I bet you are. I think you answered, you nailed Renato's question. Right, Renato?
Yeah. I think that just change a little bit in terms of sports. What kind of sports are most popular in the school that you teach?
Oh, okay. So football, like American football. So American football, basketball is really, because we have winters and we can't be outside all the time, those inside sports. Lacrosse is getting really big. You guys have lacrosse, right? Yeah.
No.
Lacrosse is played with a stick and you run around with a small ball and you throw it into a net. I feel like, and this is, please don't quote me, but it's similar to like ice hockey with ground
Okay.
and standing and yeah. So it's a small ball. And then
Yeah.
Minnesota is known for ice hockey. So I have a lot of
Ice
students
hockey.
that play hockey like year round, and it is life. And baseball. So those are baseball, basketball, football, soccer. Soccer is pretty, and lacrosse. I would say those are like the biggest ones. But it's been interesting because there's also been a change in that, where if you play one sport and you play it year round, as opposed to like when I was growing up, you'd play this and this and this and this. And like, it wasn't until high school that you were maybe playing more. But now kids in elementary school are like, I play hockey and that's it. And they are gone at tournaments every single weekend or like throughout the whole year, which is different. And a commitment for all
Is that
parents.
for free, Catie, or is it expensive for the parents?
It is so expensive.
Yeah.
Just to be on the team, it would be like $2,000 or $3,000 because you have to have ice time.
Yeah.
Then because you're traveling every weekend, you have the cost of hotels. So you're doing, at least, another $1,000 a weekend for, you have a family and you're traveling and most of it's driving, but sometimes you fly. So it's a lot.
And how many children, let's say from 100%, how many children could afford it in your school? Because you're saying it's public school, like 50% or less, or?
Where I taught, it was very affluent. So we only had 3% on free and reduced lunch. So I would say 97% of the families were well off enough to, and hockey is like the most expensive. There's also going to be other sports and whatever that don't require as much. But I would say hockey is probably the most expensive sport.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right.
So I want to move away from the teaching thingy. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But I just want to find out, like, I know that a lot of people have, especially across the world that aren't in America, they have a lot of opinions about your government and your presidents and stuff like that. And if I can ask, like, I just want to know, like, what do Americans feel about it? Like, what do they think about it? Because I know that everybody else has a very strong opinion. And
government. That's a very good question. So when Trump was president and I was traveling, I would honestly tell people that I was from Canada because I didn't want to be accosted by people while traveling. And they had very strong opinions about it. And I don't think that they were trying to be mean or you're like, oh my gosh, how could this happen? And I'm like, it's not me. I don't know, like, so, I have always found it interesting because I tend to not be very political. Like politics, I'm so frustrated. It's rich people and mainly males, white males that still predominantly are in our government. It's frustrating. But I find it very interesting that I will go to different countries and they will ask me questions and I'm like, I have no idea who that is, or we did that. Like, I don't know. I don't pay attention to it just because it's so frustrating. But the world seems to know a lot more than yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to be that I'm ignorant. I always look at what I'm doing, but I just don't want to get bogged down by it. It's too frustrating. But good question. But Yeah. So I don't know, did I answer that? I think I did.
Richard.
Sorry, mine's on exactly the same thing. And I know I already asked that question. It's because the US economy affects so much of the world, including us down in Africa. So anything that happens there, including our friend Mr. Trump, it tends to it tends to mess everything up. So I think for us down in Africa, or South Africa in particular, it's always interesting to see what happens, because our politics is pretty much a joke most of the time. So it keeps our comedians employed. Our comedians get full-time employment from it. They don't have to look for new content. So
Yeah, your president's a saint compared to down there.
I don't know about that one.
Are you sure? Have you met South African government? Because it sucks.
I mean, I've been to South Africa, but I didn't want to meet any of the government people. I try to stay away.
Are you planning on traveling more?
Oh, yeah. I
When
know
you
that,
get the bag, Catie, when you get the bag, it's very difficult.
I mean, I'm traveling right now, so I'm in Florida. But yes, yes, absolutely. And I'm not one who, I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to go on this trip a year from now, and I know where I'm going to stay this day, this day, this day, this day, this day, and have it all planned out. My last trip, I started in Ljubljana, Slovenia, for 4 days, and that is the only part of my trip that I like knew that, and when I was coming home. And the rest of the time I just kind of bebopped around and found places along the way. So I'm not a planner.
So I just wanted to ask, like, I keep saying that. My word. Like, I feel like a lot of people know a lot about America, like compared to like other countries, like a lot about American culture. But is there anything that's like kind of not secretive, but not that many people around the world know about American culture?
So America is huge. Like when people are like, where are you from? I'm like, the middle north next to Canada. And they're like, we have no idea where that is, because the only places that a lot of people know are New York, Florida, California. So anytime I meet people that have been to other places, I always ask, I go, why did you go there? like I met a guy, he's like, I went to Arizona. And I'm like, but why? And he's like, oh, I had a friend working there, you know? So they'll do like the exchanges where it's like a work summer, or like on a golf course or at different places. Or even up north in Minnesota, we have a lot of resorts. So for the summer, there'll be people that come from all over the world, and they'll come and work there for the summer. And I'm like, you chose Minnesota? I mean, that's great. It's great, but California is like way over there. I think that America has so much, like there's desert, there's mountains, there's ocean, there's tropical, you just get literally everything. And it's not easy to see it all. So like when I go to Europe, you can go to so many countries at a time, but it takes a long time. So I actually, earlier this summer, I drove from Florida up to Minnesota because we needed to bring a car back up to Minnesota, and it was 24 hours. So, I mean, I could be way far away in Europe or somewhere else, but yeah. So, and for me, it's more expensive as a solo traveler to travel in the United States than in Europe, because hostels. So hostels, you can stay with other people versus your own hotel room. And a hotel room here is like $200-$300, $200 a night. I can't afford that. So, and I can also find like hotels or like Airbnbs, but through booking.com, and do like a stay there for 4 nights for under. So under like 150 euros. So that was my goal, to do like 50 euros a night, if not less. Didn't always work because I'm last minute. But sometimes it worked really well. Like I stayed on the coast of Spain in this amazing condo, and it was so cheap because it was last minute, mobile, discount, all of this. The guy, when I talked to him, he's like, I just want to congratulate you on getting such a good price. I'm like, thank you. Sorry, I'll take really good care of your place. And then I saw the question of cost of living. And I mean, that's hard because California is insane because of their taxes. It's so much more. It
York as
depends on
well,
where
right?
you're at. Say that
New
again.
York is also very high, very expensive.
Oh my gosh. My friend lives there and she pays $2,200 a month and lives with a roommate.
Very small.
And the room can fit a twin bed in it and a dresser. And that's it. But
Yeah.
and that's two people paying $2,200 a month. So it's $4,400 a month for a shoebox. But it's location, just like anywhere else. You go to Alabama, you can buy a mansion or you can rent a mansion for that. But not a lot of people want to live in Alabama. Maybe that's just my northern piece of me.
Catie, I have another question, completely different now. I speak multiple languages, and I was born in Brazil, as you know, and it's very difficult for me to know the accents. Like here in Belgium, I cannot tell, oh, he's from the west or the east part of Belgium. I just hear, oh, it's different. It's not from where I live, let's say. Miriam is also here. She's from the Netherlands. They have lots of accents throughout the country, and I cannot pick and say, oh, this is from the north, south, whatever. And I've been speaking English for so many years, and I can never tell if someone is from California, New York, Florida, whatever. I don't know. How about you as an American? Would you be able to just say, oh, he sounds from Texas? He sounds, really?
Yeah, there's a few. So whenever I go, so the reason that I picked Canada, saying I was from Canada, is because
you're close, right?
The bag and like I elongate some of my vowels. But like California and California, you can tell. New York, you can tell. Boston, that is really heavy. In the South, you can tell. I would say Georgia, they have like kind of a twang, but I mean, you can tell that some places are definitely different.
But like when you pick the states, can you combine like 3 states and say they are all sound similar, and then the region?
Yeah, I would say the Midwest kind of sounds the same.
Okay.
You know, it's going to be like Minnesota, South and North Dakota, Iowa, Wisconsin, kind of like that middle area. But as you get further on either the coast or south, it's going to be a bit different. And also there's different words that they use for different things. So like in like a water fountain, to like get a drink of water at a water fountain, we call it a water fountain. But in Wisconsin, which is right next door, they call it a bubbler.
Bubbler, I never heard that. Bruce is an American. Have you heard that before, Bruce? She's making it up. She's making it up. We're gonna have to find someone from Idaho to confirm it. You just make the new word. You have to find someone to confirm that.
I will confirm that. No, it's bubbler. So like when I went to college, and I went to college in Iowa, there were words that people would say, or like things, and they're like, oh, I need to go to the time machine. And I'm looking at them going, the time machine? Like, I know you're from Iowa, but you can't travel in time. And they're like, no, time machine, I need to get money out. And I'm like, the ATM? And they're like, yeah, the time machine, because theirs were like labeled time, TYME, time machines, and they called it the time machine, as opposed to the cash point, the ATM, which is, I feel like that's like worldwide ATM, right? I don't know. So there were different things that I mean, even being close, you know, and when in Minnesota, we call like a Coca-Cola a pop, P-O-P. Like I
I've
want
heard
to
that
pop,
before. Yeah, yeah.
but everywhere else for the most part calls it soda. So
Soda, yeah.
I was down in Arizona one time. I'm like, oh, what kind of pop do you have? And this lady looked at me and she goes, oh, you're not from here. You're from the north because you said pop. I haven't heard that in forever. And so, you know, like, and she, because, or like in Georgia, it would be like, what kind of Coca-Cola do you have? Because that just means soda all around. But yeah.
Oh, that was a great answer. Thank you so much. It was fun. Aura, you have another question?
Yes, obviously I do.
I think she wants to at least visit the USA or maybe to immigrate. Would you like to live there, Aura? Please confess,
No,
confess.
I will confess. This is my darkest secret. I want to live there for about a year. Just because I want to travel everywhere in America, but as you said, like America's huge, so you can't just go there for like a month. So I wanted to stay there for like a year and just like see everything. So yes, I'm asking a bunch of questions.
I'm gonna put you in touch. Catie, can I put her in touch with you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
And you have a place in Florida and Minnesota to stay, and I have friends all over the place. So
wow,
you up with some couches.
Accommodation as well, girl. Lottery day.
I picked the right day to join. Okay. Anyway, this is the stupidest question ever. I just wanted to know, are Americans good with different American accents? So like, can you like do like the other American accents, or can other people do like the other American accents? Because I know that people that aren't from America, they tend
you
to
just
be able
put
to
her on the spot, just like that. Oh my God.
Yes, I did.
Oh man. So like some people are very good at it. I am not. But like Boston is going to be like wicked. Oh, everything is wicked. Like they have like, but I am not. Mm-mm.
Okay,
y'all, let's go down to the cow
Bruce is gonna
poke.
do it. Bruce can do it. Bruce, please take it over.
I can just tell you that I consider the Northeast of the United States to speak more British accent. Would you like a cup of tea with your water? Okay, they pronounce the British accent. And then the majority of the United States speaks like we do, okay? So, you know, the Midwest accent. They have variations, but it's not that much. They may use some different words, but the other accent is Southern or Texas, Georgia, up in the mountains of Kentucky or something like that. And they all talk, y'all come back now here. Do you understand what I said?
Oh yeah.
Again,
Listen here, boy.
Y'all come back now here.
I'm telling you to get back on your horse and ride out of here.
Okay, Miriam, go ahead. Show Aria your American accent. Let's go. Yeah, everybody should give it a try. Renata's gonna go next.
Oh, I'm trying to think of the South American one, because that's the one I always recognize in films. But of course, it's, you know, the Alabama, the way they speak there. But I'm not good in. I can recognize them, but I'm not good in doing it myself. But the South American, like, you know, your redneck states, to put it that way, where you always see in films, they always have this really distinct. Matthew McConaughey talks like that. But can somebody do that? This really distinct southern part of the North America. But no, I'm not good at it. Sorry.
Okay, next time we're gonna ask Miriam to speak a little French for you.
That's not a problem.
She's bilingual, you know. So anyhow, Renato, can you come up with some American accent a little bit different?
Yeah,
for
I think
art,
that
especially.
when I visit California, mainly San Francisco, I consider that the English that it was spoken there was really clear. Yeah, so I don't have when I was in New York, I remember that people was always speak in a hurry. Yeah, I think that they are not so much patient to speak to explain for foreigners about things that they sell and mainly restaurants. Yeah, but I think that's okay for me. I don't have too much experience around United States in different states of the United States, just California and New York, and I've been to Canada some years ago. But I think that I didn't have a kind of difficult to understand the accents. I remember that when I was in Canada and in Toronto, I remember that one of the persons, one of the teachers told me that Brazilians speak a more correct English than American. So that was funny for me. But that's it. I don't have problem with the language.
So
in general.
that's what it is. What it is. What it is.
Bruce, we're getting
Yes.
so. Mike, you have to put your mic off because Renato was getting interrupted.
Sorry.
Bruce? Oh, okay, okay.
No problem.
Sorry,
No, that's
Renato,
it.
go ahead.
That's it. No, that's it. Yeah, that's a kind of experience that I had.
Yeah.
I am also not good with accents, so I'm just going to pass back to Aura. Aura, have you practiced? Have you thought about something that you can tell us, show us your talents with accents?
Wait, don't I kind of speak like an American already?
Yeah. A little
Yeah.
bit.
I was gonna say, I was like, wait, crap. I think, yeah, I just had another question, but like, speaking wise, I feel like if I take away like the South African like to it, then we kind of sound like American anyway. If we just like really try not to roll our tongues all the time.
Oh, well, I'm going to have to ask Richard to confirm that. Richard is also from South Africa. Does she sound South African or not?
Now she sounds American.
Oh, you go, girl.
This was my life goal. I never wanted to sound South African. I've completed my life now. So
there you go. I mean, you can start now because, you know, Catie, she's just 17 years old. So she has still plenty things to accomplish. Guys, it's lots of fun. It's been good and it's been great, actually. But it's already 10:06, and I promise all my special speakers that we're going to stick to 1 hour. So we just ran out of time. Aria, I'm going to put you in touch with Catie, and I'm going to ask her to come back again next time so we can continue this amazing conversation. Would you be up to?
Yes.
Catie, did you have a good time?
This was so nice. It was very nice. I'll have to go on more
Okay.
adventures so I have other things to talk about.
That's going to be amazing. That's going to be great. Okay, thank you so much for being there, for helping us out. We're going to be posting this video. So if you don't mind with privacy or anything, so other people and students, they can also take a look. Okay, thank you so much, you all. I
Thank
see you
you.
next time.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catie.
Bye-bye,
Bye-bye. See
everyone.
people.